This is Super SaaS Bros with Cory and Jayde. Let's jump in. Welcome back to another episode of the Super SaaS Bros. I love what we've been doing over the past few weeks, kind of diving into that weekly digest of AI. Before we do that, it's Cory's birthday, so kind of want to give you a shout out. Happy birthday, 31st birthday. Crushing it in the world of AI and SaaS. So how
Thanks,
do you feel today,
man.
Mark? How do you feel? How does 31 feel?
31 feels good, man. Yeah, I don't know. I'm a dad running a cool business with my best friend. So it's life is good today. So yeah, I'm feeling pretty good. I haven't had any weird bend over to go pick something up and my back tweaks or my knees are
Mm,
good. So
That's what 30's for. You already felt that last year.
we've passed that point. So now 31's okay. So yeah, it's been good, man. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Nice,
Yeah.
very cool. I don't have a mic today, so we're going to be using my laptop, so hopefully it goes okay. But cool, man. I think, yeah, let's dive into this weekly digest. I heard about this 21-year-old kid who launched this app 2 months ago called Cluely. I don't know if you've
Okay.
heard of Cluely.
No.
Uh, this kid's 21 years old. It's called Cluely. If you go to cluely.ai, I think, or cluely.com, it's basically instead of a chat bot, it runs in the background of everything that you're doing. That way, it has context of basically your entire workflow while you're working and helps give context, insight, assistance, everything. And the kid is doing, he launched 2 months ago. He's doing 500K a month right now. And
Oh
I
my
and
God.
I don't know how big his team is. I can't remember what I read, but yeah, I think it might even just be him. And yeah,
So this is sorry, does it run just on your like it's for like personal computers or anything like that? Like it's just like watching everything you do and it knows everything or like
I think so. Yeah, I'm pretty sure
really?
that's what I was reading. Yeah, so
What's it? It's called Cluely?
Cluely,
Clu-
Cluely.
Cluely, everything you need before you ask.
Yeah.
Undetectable AI that sees your screen, here's your call. Dude, I have seen this, but you know what? In what context? Doing like interviews and like any type of test or anything like that, where someone's like watching you or something like that. Snap! I have seen some or something similar. Someone else doing something similar. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Because
there.
it's crazy. Because sometimes they'll ask you right to like, hey, can you share your screen? I want to make sure you're not using like any like AI like assistants or anything like that. They're
What
like,
goes
oh
into
yeah, no
your
problem. I think literally one of their ads is that, and then
as
it shares their screen and they're like, yeah, nothing's there, but really it's there.
there? Yeah, I feel like it's
Crazy.
that too. Yeah. So there's
Yeah.
that. And there's also I'm sure you've probably seen Scribe as well. Scribe.how or Scribe How.
Yeah.
Not the same, but it does also kind of watch your screen and like summarize your workflow so that it can create like different SOPs and things like that for you. So
Yeah.
that's pretty cool. But yeah, man, 21 years old, this kid's crushing it, 500K a month. And yeah, I don't know how big his team is, but good for him. Kudos to
That
him. It
is
really showcases the power of AI and SaaS right now, how big and quick it can grow.
just so wild, man. That is so freaking cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm gonna take a look at that. I don't know personally how I would make use of it on my day to day, but I know again like the use cases, like people like doing like software engineer like interviews,
Hmm.
people doing like just actually any interviews in general, right? So it's cool. I mean, like regardless of whatever your ethical or moral compass is around like using it for things like that, it is pretty cool, and people will want to make use of it and use it. So it is what it is. I wonder if this is the kid. Oh, dude, it's got to be someone else. But basically, like, he did this, he made something like this, and it's basically the sole purpose is for so people can cheat, like, on everything, tests or
Oh,
whatever. And he got kicked out. I think he was like going to Columbia, and he
okay.
got kicked out of school because Columbia heard about it and he was a student there. And they're like, yeah, we can have this. He's like, okay, cool. And he just went off and he started making like a shit ton of money. And he was like,
Yeah.
whatever, I don't care.
Yeah. And it always begs the question of like, is it like ethically wrong since you can use it and it's not illegal and it's just like a way to just superpower your workflow? Like, I don't
Yeah,
really, yeah, I just think I don't know. I think, and we've talked about this many times in terms of like the ethics
ugh,
behind
I
using
know.
AI to do things for you. And I know we're both kind of the same mindset, but I'm
Yeah,
curious to see how the world's going to shape in the next year with all of that. Because it starts at the education level. Like it starts with the kids. And
yep.
if whatever that decision ends up becoming, The teachers are probably going to feel some sort of way. Yeah,
Yep.
I'm super curious.
I hope it leans towards the more of the doing rather
Mm.
than the memorization of things, right? So like
Oh,
I really the future of it for me is like I see less test and less like I'll call it traditional ways of testing, like standardized tests and stuff like that,
mm,
and
mhm,
more just application.
mm,
Like I think it's just going to be purely application. So I actually
mhm.
think a lot of stuff, especially when it comes to doing like lab work, is going to become like super important. Hi
Totally.
Dana.
Yeah. It's
Sorry in the
calm.
back. She like came in and came out really quick.
Yeah.
But I think it's gonna be more of like application stuff is what's gonna pop, and I hope that just teachers and like professors realize that, and they're like, you know what, screw it, we're gonna go on to the assumption that you're gonna be able to learn a lot really
Mhm,
quickly and be able to use AI to digest a ton of information. Let's
mhm.
focus on actually just doing the thing now.
Totally.
So,
Totally.
anyways, that's where I hope it goes. But cool, Cluely, that's awesome, man. That's a really cool one you
Yeah.
found.
Yeah, clearly sounds pretty cool. I was asked this question a couple days ago in terms of like what gets me excited in the AI and SaaS space because
Mm,
obviously right now it's a very competitive space. It's kind of like everyone's trying to do something, build something because of the novel tech that's being released. And I was asked this question by my mentor the other day, and he's like, what excites you the most, and what is it that you want to build or dive into? Because ultimately, Six Summit, what we want to do is hone in on one product that we're super passionate about, and start to build and scale that. And then I thought to myself, I'm like, I think the question should be rephrased. Like, if I was to really think about like what is something that is going to disrupt the market or something that I would want to work on, I kind of try to fast forward like 3 to 5 years, and I'm thinking to myself, what do I think will already exist in 3 to 5 years?
hmm.
And then like kind of think about that at every like in every vertical. And then you're like, okay, so I think voice intake systems for pizza restaurants are probably going to exist in the next 3 to 5 years, right? Is
Yep.
that something that we want to completely dive into and tackle, which is something that we've chose to kind of go into and tackle. But if we kind of zoom out and really think about that, then the question really becomes which one of those assumptions that you believe is going to exist in 3 to 5 years, which one of those do you want to tackle? As opposed to thinking about like instead of thinking about problems today, think about
Hmm.
what's going to exist in 3 to 5 years, and then just pick one of those.
That's an interesting frame. I really like that.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if I've ever thought about that. I might sit with that one and come back in the next podcast to see like kind of because I have never really thought about it. Like
Yeah.
what do I think is going to exist in 3 to 5 years,
Yeah.
and is it something that I would want to work on?
Exactly. And then
Interesting.
actually bring to life.
Yeah. So beyond like obviously like we're working on like a pizza voice agent and stuff like that. Was there anything else that kind of came to your mind as you asked yourself that question?
Yeah, totally. In the legal space, I see the legal space almost becoming like this chess game where it's actually able to understand all the evidence that has come into play. So imagine a world where like as soon as the litigation begins, all the evidence is brought to play. I know that's not usually how it is today, but imagine a world where that happens. And then you basically can have all these different, you can tree it out into how the arguments are going to go and how the plaintiff is going to go and the defendant and all the cases and accusations and evidence. And then I'm like, okay, objectively speaking, if we think of this as like a chess game, what's the next move I need to make based on this assumption? What's the next move I need to make based on this assumption? And you basically know the end result, which is like at the very bottom of the tree, on how the case is going to play out if you
Hmm.
follow that branch, right?
Yeah.
I I think there's going to be a world where there's a system, you upload all these documents, and you cannot like refute it. Like this is basically how the litigation will end up and the result of it because it's tried to go down every path. You have tried to argue through every path, and there's always like a counter back to it, or now there's no counter back to it, which means that's probably the result.
Right.
Um, yeah. There is obviously the whole maybe there's like a subjective play to it. Maybe there's like a tonality. Maybe there's things that aren't really like hard evidence, but like you have to kind of consider,
Right.
right? Maybe it'll kind of weigh those like I'll call them soft evidences out. Maybe this is a 60% weight because of these reasons, and then still using those like weighted evidence systems, it's still able to um, morally and ethically come up with the most accurate result of what the litigation would be.
That's super interesting. I wonder as well too, like, that we're talking about it having context of everything that it requires for this litigation, right? But
Hmm.
like, is there something, so new precedents are always being set. And so I wonder if it has like the ability to like be able to set new precedents based on like, hey, like what has previously been set before. So having like access to cases that are similar, not just discovery that is related to the litigation itself,
Specific
right?
case. Yeah.
Cool. Very cool,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah. It'll hook into like a pacer law, and it'll just
Yeah.
kind of, yeah, use those as references and examples. Yeah. So in the legal space, I definitely see that happening.
Cool.
Um, yeah. I actually wrote down a bunch that I'll share real quick because I think,
Nice.
yeah, it was a really interesting way for me to think about it as well. So I got voice agents for pizza shops, which talked about personal agents for your own private data to communicate with. I think we talked about this a lot. Like I want to know Jade better than I
Then
do right now,
Yeah.
right? I want to know myself better than I do right now. And there's so many data points about myself that I actually just don't know, whether
Yep.
it's in the medical space, what my assets are, what well, like just like how is my health relate to my financials and my relationships, all
Yep.
about my relationships, my family, things like that.
Yep.
Ancestry stuff, like I think that'd be really cool. I think, yeah, single interface to communicate across N data sources. So there's one sign in, an aggregation of data. This is kind of like Atom, what we've been
Mm-hmm.
building, right?
Yep.
I don't see a world where we're gonna have, I don't know what that interface looks like, but it's something along the lines of like, how do we communicate through some sort of channel where we basically have access to a bunch of these different data sources?
Yep.
One channel, I think that'd be pretty dope. And that's definitely coming. And then I just think like yeah, manual data entry and manual data analysis, like those are going to be obsolete. There's a ton. We've talked about like this digital report card idea, having a
Mm-hmm.
historical ledger of yourself. That'd be pretty cool. I'm sure like even like blockchain might tie into that because that would just be like your single source of truth of like where everything lives, right? You
Yep.
can't really refute that.
Yep.
Yeah, that excites me. That like, hey, this is like my identity. My passport lives here. My ID lives here. My medical records live here.
Yep.
This is me, and can't refute it. And it like does like a bunch of analysis across everything, and understands all your data, and you can just communicate with it.
Which country is really good at this is China.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I can't like give examples of what platforms, but I know like they're very, very good at like aggregating individuals' datas for them to kind of access and use all at once with like one interface. Like I know even like WeChat, like they have like there's so much
Okay.
apparently that you can do just with that. So like I think it'd be interesting to see like what international applications already exist that are like heading in that direction, right?
Hmm.
Because we don't really have that at least in North America, like
Yeah.
in the masses. So that's cool, man. That's a great list. I'm gonna ask myself this question now.
Yeah.
That's my
Yeah.
that's my
And
assignment for the week.
come back next pod. Think about it.
Cool.
You find any news on what kind of happened this week? I know you're usually on that.
Yeah, yeah. So in terms of like actual like, I'd say groundbreaking news, there wasn't too much going on, but I'll talk a little bit about like some of the events I went to this week because this
Yeah.
week was Toronto Tech Week. So I went to a couple events, one at Google HQ here in Toronto, another one at Intuit's HQ, and I'll start with like the Google one. So it was actually the DeepMind team, Toronto team, that was the main panel for the chat, and it was really interesting because it was like their principal scientists and one of the research scientists, and it was so fascinating because they are the perfect mix between industry and academics because they all hop in between, like go to academics, they do some like their fun research there, and then
Right.
they go into industry and they do like their scalable research here because they have a ton of resources, right?
Okay.
But the what was interesting was the main thing that we're talking about, like all they're focusing on is literally around biology. They're
Okay.
doing a ton of stuff around AI and biology, and that's pretty much it. And it's like, and then that's one thing that I even just saw came out was basically like, what was it here? Yeah, Google DeepMind just released Alpha Genome, which is an AI model that predicts how DNA mutations affect other like molecular processes like across your body. So
Whoa.
yeah, which is pretty cool. So anyways, it can lead to a lot of things around like actually cures for certain like genetic
Tropic
diseases,
nature.
right? So super super cool. So they're spending a lot of time in like the biological and healthcare field in that research team. So that they spent a lot of time talking about that. So that was pretty cool. Another random factoid that came out of that I didn't realize, but there was the Toronto DeepMind team that created the first Google like Imagine model, like the image model.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I didn't
Yeah,
know
they're the ones that developed it.
that. Okay. I
So
didn't
that
know
was
that.
really cool. So the very first version of it. So obviously there are a couple versions deep now,
Yeah.
but they were the first one to develop it. So go Team Toronto. So that was pretty cool. And then they did a demo. They were talking about like basically they're going through their ADKs and all that stuff that you probably saw at the Google conference in Vegas, right? So they were basically, I think, regurgitating some of that stuff there. But they did a demo of just like, basically using, Vertex AI and like other ADKs and stuff like that. It was pretty cool, but it was also to me, like the demo was to me felt lackluster, which was interesting because I feel like we've built some really cool stuff. And so my expectations for some of these demos are really high. But
Yeah.
other people found it super cool. So
Yeah.
this is where, like, again, it was another reminder of like, I feel like we are still ahead of the curve in terms of like adoption and also tech we're working with. But also that, like, even like big teams like Google are still, I would say the products they're building are like not behind us, but like they're, we're on par with them, I guess is what I'm trying to say, right?
Right. Right.
Which is kind of
Gives
cool.
you confidence and validation that we're on the right track. We're doing the right things. If people are
Yes.
showcasing demos of things that we already know and built, it just provides more validation.
Yeah,
Totally.
exactly, exactly. So yeah, so that was really cool to hear from the DeepMind team and kind of all the stuff they're working on and the research that they're doing. They're a huge focus on healthcare because this is not the first time I've heard people just focusing like a lot of their efforts on like AI towards healthcare. So I think when you start asking your question of like what's going to exist in like 3 to 5 years, my mind immediately went to somewhere in the healthcare space, like
Sweet.
around like research and like cures and all that sort of stuff. I don't know really what that looks like yet, but that's kind of where my head initially went. And there obviously teams that are doing like some heavy research on it, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so super super cool. And then what was some other stuff that kind of came out of this week? Oh, I met an interesting founder. It's not really just a really cool story, but he basically, so with machine learning, there's obviously different types of learning, right? Like, and one of the ones is the supervised learning, and then there's like reinforcement learning. So basically, what they're doing is they created like they gamified an environment for reinforcement learning for models, essentially for like open source models. So any of the ones that you see probably on like Hugging Face or Featherless or anything like that. It's he gave me, what was the name? I'll send it to you. SAI. Let me see. Yeah, let me send it. It's called competesai.com.
Okay.
Anyways, these guys raised $11 million. And yeah, they have this like just basically this platform where you can basically like, train your models and using reinforcement learning, but it's like it's somehow gamified and it's like a competition. So it's like, I don't know, I got to dive more into it, but it was really cool. And, but he raised $11 million for this, right? And I was like, because I asked him, I
Very
was like,
cool.
how are you making money like doing
Yeah.
this, right? How are you
Yeah.
like surviving?
Yeah.
And his answer was like, well, we have VC money, so we're not charging anything. I was like, cool.
Yeah.
Great. He's like, well, eventually, he's like, but we have a lot of runway. I was like, no kidding. That's
Yeah.
really cool. So anyways, check it out. Yeah, it's called, competesai.com.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was pretty cool. And then, yeah, I think that's kind of been like the main stuff that I've like kind of heard from this week. Yeah, I guess I think the DeepMind, Google DeepMind stuff was like probably the coolest. So
Yeah. That competes AI. That's $11 million. Gamifying it. I don't know how you'd. Yeah. That's really cool. Keep an eye on that for sure.
yeah, take a look because I was like, he was kind of explaining to me, and I was like, cool. I gotta look more into it because I don't know if I fully understand what like how it actually works, right? But they literally just like when I was sitting beside him, I was like, introduced myself, and he's like, sorry, just give me 1 second. We're literally deploying this like right now, and I was like,
I
cool,
love
yeah,
it. I love
yeah.
it.
And then I asked him after, it's like, so like. Would you deploy, right? And then he was like, let me show you, and I was like, okay, cool. But
Very
literally
cool.
literally there in the middle of the talk, and he's this guy's just deploying his to prod.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
Things gotta go out. Gotta go out. It's
Yeah,
Friday.
yeah,
Deploy. Oh no, sorry, that wouldn't have been today. But yeah, that's hilarious.
yeah,
That's so funny.
yeah.
Uh, the first thing that I've ever kind of built with reinforcement learning was a car and like it was like a little web app, and it's a car that basically there's like it's in a maze, and you have to try and get out of the maze. So every time it goes, and if it hits a dead end, it learns not to go there anymore. So it like, and then it's got to
Ah,
go to the next one, and then like, it kind of brute forces it, but it
yeah.
knows where not to go, and it's just like it's a point system where it's like every time it makes a move and it can move, it's just like plus one, plus one, plus one, hits a dead end, minus one. And then it's just looking for the pluses everywhere. And then it learns,
Cool.
and it's like, okay, then you run it again, and it'll just do it in one shot because it knows where all the pluses are.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's
Nice.
kind of like a digital version of those vacuum robots, essentially.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Like the
Yeah.
little Roombas.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's cool.
Cool, man.
Nice. Yeah, but that
Um,
was pretty much all I got from the week, dude. At least I can remember right now. And yeah,
yeah.
otherwise it was a pretty quiet news week. So
Quiet News Week, yeah.
yeah,
In our world in Six Summit, so we had quick update on us. So we had an incredible demo with Pizza Shop that came
yeah.
back with some great feedback on our voice AI agent for them. So we're looking to hopefully onboard them on Wednesday of next week. So we'll keep you guys posted with that. We have, I don't know if we even said this before, but we have a junior developer that's working with us. I don't remember if we've even
I
mentioned
don't know
that.
if we've ever said it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
maybe we did, maybe we
yeah.
didn't. She's been crushing it, so she's helping us a lot with some of our venture stuff and some client work, which has been awesome. What else do we got? We got some proposals out for a couple RFPs that we've been looking at.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. What other updates you got for the week?
I mean, our the Atom project that we built for our clients, we brought on a bunch of beta users, which is
That's
pretty
right.
cool. So we have a
Yep.
bunch of like master students on that right now, like kind of talking to users, getting feedback, and collecting that feedback and stuff, which is
Yep.
pretty cool. So I think there's like 35 35 users on there. So yeah, pretty cool to kind of see people getting on there and starting to hear some of the feedback. Yeah, we had a meeting with the students this week, and I think they're really enjoying like the gathering the user feedback and watching people use it. So I think they're excelling well in that. So they love that kind of stuff, which is cool. So yeah. So anyway, so that was pretty cool. And then yeah, I mean, if anyone's interested, we're also still growing our RevOps team. So always want to shout out there if you're interested in kind of joining the Six Summit team. You can just go to our careers page on our website. You can also just message us at talent at sixsummit.io. But looking for people to join the team as well too, because we got one guy that's going to be joining us next week, which will be pretty cool. And so the team's
Yeah.
growing. That's like kind of
Hell
just an
yeah.
exciting update. The team's growing, right? So
Hell yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
you guys have been seeing us since we were just two people, two dudes building little Microsoft stuff. And yeah, now we're coming on to almost five people, plus the students would be eight, really. So that's quite the team.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hell
Yeah.
yeah. Cool.
Cool.
I'm so glad that we've been documenting this and like sharing our journey with you all. You guys have been seeing like the ups and downs, and they're still happening. It's definitely still a roller coaster.
Oh yeah.
Um, yeah. But um, keep like yeah, stay informed, stay tuned because we're gonna crush it. We're still crushing it. I'm stoked for the next couple months. Especially with like what we already have out, what our pipeline looks like, and just
Yep.
like having more people join the team. So yeah, super stoked.
It will be good, and it will be interesting for everyone listening to like hear where we eventually like take this thing, and like if whatever product we end up like kind of leaning towards, like we're documenting the entire journey from where we are now to wherever we're going. The
Hmm.
rocket ship is taking off. We don't know what the end result is yet, but we're going up.
We don't know where it's going. Shopify started off as a snowboarding company. That's what I keep telling myself. So kudos to them. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's like my inspiration. So
exactly. Yeah.
yeah, cool
Cool.
guys. I think this was a good episode. Thank you so much for listening. If you're still here, we are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. So if you check us out, see us, leave a rating, a review. Don't know what it does, but I think it helps. And we will see you guys in the next episode. I think in the next episode we will have a guest on.
We do, yeah. You guys tune in for that. First guest next episode,
Yeah,
and then we have a couple actually in July. So there's
cool.
yeah, you guys will get to start hearing some other people talk other than us. So that will be
Yeah,
super exciting.
yeah, exactly. Thanks, guys.
See ya. Thank you for listening to another episode of Super SaaS Pros with Cory and Jayde. We'll see you next time.